When you look at Tears of the Kingdom from the outside, the new Nintendo exclusive seems empty and boring. But when you run the game yourself, it seems almost impossible to fully embrace it. There's something going on under every rock and bush, and new adventure at every turn, and such a spirit of freedom can't be found in any game today. Having gone through the first part of the dialogue, I firmly believe that Tears of the Kingdom was a 70s add-on. The 5-hour intro introduced some new mechanics, but the player constantly seems familiar techniques. Again, 4 villages and forces of 4 nations. Again, the same characters. For a long time, I thought I would be the main opposition to the popularity and hype for the new installment of Zelda. And then the introduction ended. I was released into the open world and I disappear in it in this day. It's good to see that Nintendo listened to the criticism of the first installment and put me more focus on story and characters. There are more story clips, the characters from the previous installment have been developed, and the plot is intriguing. After standing under the king's castle, Link and Zelda awaken the imprisoned Ganon, who has been there all along. Link loses his right arm, Zelda falls into the abyss and disappears, and Ganon transforms the world of Hyrule. Immediately some of the plot moves of the previous installment becomes clear. But don't worry, even if you don't have played Breath of the Wild, you can safely start with Tears of the Kingdom. The story is self-sufficient and is connected with the previous part only by small details. At the same time, the developers have not forgotten about the essence of the first part of dialogue. Tears of the Kingdom is also about the freedom for the player during the passage. This is a reflect in the plot, to learn the properties of history, in the segment after the introduction and before the final, allowed in any order. The change open world of Hyrule only disposed to this. The game also introduced side storylines, episodic quests, tell a cohesive story that after completing one episode will be continued in later game. One such quest, The Touch My Hearth, tells the story of the girl leaving home. She needs to travel to the Gerudo Desert to come of each year, and for some hour of game time to play becomes attached to all the characters of this action, emphasize with them. It is impossible to look at the touching end of the quest without tears. Nintendo knows how to hook romance with for game stories. In 50 hours I saw 3 full-fledged worlds. The skies about Hyrule with Flying Island, Hyrule transformed after the cataclysm, on which part of ancient building flying in the sky have fallen and continue to fall. The underground world covered with the endless caves and impenetrable darkness. All 3 worlds are so crammed with content that all time of writing I only see maybe a third of it. I won't spoil the content from Karen out of principle, you have to see it for yourself. The middle world that is Hyrule is not only littered with the remains of ancient buildings, but also expand into the depths. There are full-fledged caves where new enemies dwell, sometimes treasure of resources are guaranteed here, and less often you have to go into caves to solve puzzles on the surface. Because of this, it doesn't feel like the same game in the new wrapper. Only sometimes you meet iconic places from the first part and your heart gets nostalgic. Horogoblins from the caves are not only newcomers, they are also Zonai golems, mechanism of 30 degrees of complexity, which attacks Link as soon as they see him. The enemies known from the first part have more abilities. For example, goblins have grown horns and will not hesitate to kick the protagonist in battle. These small and not small creeps also began to obey the big and fat boss. He sends them into battle or calls them back to himself during the fight, and only when the little things are dead, he himself will go attack Link. Organs and spare parts from enemies dismantled in battles, as before, can be used to strengthen Link. In Breath of the Wild, they are well needed to brew potions. Now the horns and hooves of enemies will have to use to improve your own arsenal. Because of the cataclysm, weapons are destroyed by a mismatch and have lost their full power. New abilities of protagonist came to their rescue. Having lost his arm, Link was now left clipped. The guy was given a better, more sophisticated worthless, and he will also end up the protagonist with new abilities. After going through the introduction, the protagonist will learn to assemble objects into mechanism using quickness, the glue findings with weapons, and make the battle using charm montage to zip through the ceiling, or maintain thanks to charm portal to return object back in the time using after reverse. Each of these abilities is used everywhere. The gameplay design of the game is tailored to the player experimentation. Combikinesis is needed to solve brightness, shyness, and create crazy mechanism. There's already hundreds of videos on the net from users where they assemble flying machines, combat vehicles, and fool around with carworks. You can get bored collecting mechanism time after time, and you can use them to overcome obstacles. Assemble a catapult to launch a great distance, create a sled with a fan that will glide off crest of miasmas, get into a flying machine with a bunch of fans and batteries to climb at the top of the Bow Grand Island and find a challenge here. The possibilities are endless. From montage in Nintendo graceful way out of giving the player more variety while not taking away old features. Essentially, Tears of the Kingdom utilize old weapons, but since they are ineffective due to miasma damage, you have to get out of it. After knocking them out of Goblin or Goblin boss, you can attach them to your weapon to increase its attack power. Works with any object. You can attach mushrooms to stick, or attach an explosive barrel to your shield, jump on top of crowds of enemies, slip the shield under Link's feet and blow up the poor thing. Or pick up a fallen star, attach it to an active wand and create a staff of light to explore Karen. After reverse object in time is used to solve puzzles or fly to Celestial Island. Stand on the fallen piece of ancient construction. Trigger time reversal and wait for the newly created elevator to take Link to his destination. But the ability has also a lot of potential in battle. A stone thrown at the hero, send the gift back, boss multiplied into a bunch of pieces, climb the one of them and use after reverse to pull yourself to the exposed vulnerable point, and so on. As for zipping through the ceiling, I never got to use it anywhere other than exploring the world or solving riders. I thought I won't be surprised in the hundreds however, this will be boss that have been killed with help of charm portal. That's what makes Tears of the Kingdom so appealing. Unlike Elden Ring, which deliberately puts obstacles in the player's way, the new Zelda gives tools that allow you to experiment with everything the player sees on the screen. You can say that Tears of the Kingdom is an easy game. The enemies here are merciless, and in some areas they kill with a couple of blows. It's not with one, but the player always has a choice of how to act in his own situation. His is in focus to run and farm experience points, to pump up characteristic and to plug every encounter with a stick for a leap. The player's head and brain are pumped. How can I use the means available and emerge victor from the fight? And the solution is always at hand, as the developers have clearly calculated every battle in the vast world. During the story mission in the village of the water peel Zora, which was flooded with mud, I would not open the entrance to the tower. It was covered with mud. Releases filled with quips taught me to leave that thing for later, most likely to give the ability or the story the mud will become off by itself. Until it got to my brain, the dirt could be washed off by attacking Waterfoot to the arrow, and it worked. I felt like a genius, and a fool at the same time. The delight of solving the riddle and the shame of my own stupidity cannot be explained. You just have to feel it. In battle, the player is also free to experiment, attach a confuxia flower to an arrow and lure some of the enemies for his side for a while, throw a smoke mushroom on the feet of crowd of enemies and kill everyone from the back. Use elemental jelly choo-choo or fruit to impose effect on enemies. Everything depends on the player's desire to try to solve this mini-task. To summarize, after 50 hours of gameplay, Tears of the Kingdom is a phenomenon. You won't see such freedom in any major AAA release from big publishers today. They try to guide you through a point of interest, point out of a small pile of content in the form of questions and please a distinguished client, just so long as he doesn't get bored and brings money to the till. The new Zelda makes you look at video games in a new way. You want to live in it, spend your free time and constantly experiment, testing local mechanics for strange. And Tears of the Kingdom so far does not fail. It surprise and delight not stop, fox the mind with freedom and make you try to play in different ways.